Welcome to Turning Hard Times Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to tell you Collin Kettell is here with me once again today to talk about Palisades Gold. That's a company that he is the executive chairman of and also the founder of Palisades Gold. It trades in Canada under the symbol PALI. You can buy it down here in the States, as I have, under the symbol PLGDF. 64.5 million shares and about 75 cents in U.S. money, giving it a market cap of about $48 million in U.S. money. It's pretty remarkably undervalued, and that's why I'm really happy to have Collin here to talk to us today. I mean, amongst some of the assets it owns, 18.9% of Newfound Gold. That, I looked at Newfound's price, and that gives a value of 110 million just right off the bat. That's more than twice of what the market is pricing the company at right now. Has 100% of Radio Fuels. That's a uranium company, a mining operation, not an operation yet, but a deposit that has some over 100 million pounds of uranium. I don't think the market's giving any value for that. And then a whole portfolio of Nevada, prospective ground in Nevada for gold and silver mining. I suppose exploration storage. Collin will clarify that exactly what he's planning to do with Made in America. He calls it Made in America Corp, private corporation, as is Radio Fuels, but a company owns 100% of both those companies. It's really an exciting story. I think very few people paying attention. So thank you so much, Collin, for joining me today.
Yeah, Jay, thanks for having me back on the show in such short order. I appreciate it. And I don't do this very often, but I do enjoy nothing more than speaking about Palisades to people interested in hearing about it.
Well, and for good reasons, because you have a lot to talk about, I think. I'd like to start out maybe by asking you to talk about the history of Palisades and then what the business model is, perhaps. So, I mean, you were the founder of the company. No one better to talk about it than you. So if you could just maybe start out with that.
Palisades has a pretty lengthy history, at least compared to how long I've been in the industry. I started using the name back in 2011 or 2012 for a video production enterprise. I was very into video production back in high school and university, and then continued to use the name as I shifted into the mining space. And there was a company called Palisade Capital or Palisade Global for a while. That all morphed into what is now the public company, which was formed in 2020 called Palisades Gold Corp. It's now trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, as you laid out, under the ticker symbol PALI, and it's designated as an investment company. There are several investment companies listed in Canada, not too many of them focused on the junior resource space, and so we fit an interesting niche. And Palisades essentially is where I do the majority of my investing, company building, and when I see opportunities, I try to use Palisades to take advantage of those opportunities and ultimately try to realize value.
Yeah. Well, companies, and you certainly have been at it for sure, because Newfound Gold, I believe you were a founder of Newfound Gold. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So Palisades started a company back in 2016 that was called Palisade Resources. Palisade Resources ended up changing its name to Newfound Gold to focus on its Newfoundland asset, the Queensway Project. And it also spun out a company called Nevada King Gold Corp, which is also publicly listed now, and at this time has no affiliation to Palisades. However, shareholders of Palisades in the past did benefit from that, as we distributed all of those shares out directly to our shareholders. So we've done 7 return of capital distributions since 2021. And we're a very dynamic company. We tend to think of junior resource companies as companies that are constantly reliant on their share price because they have to dilute and raise money to advance. Palisades, aside from one strategic investment, has never diluted as a public company. I personally own about 24% of it. Insiders own about 45% of it. So we're very much so incentivized to keep the share structure shrinking as opposed to growing, and that's exactly what we've done.
Yes, indeed. Well, I'd like to start out. I mean, I see there's like basically 4 main projects or four main items in your portfolio that are that I'd like to have you talk to us about. Newfound Gold being, as I said, 18.9%, worth $110 million in the market right now compared to your market cap. That's, of course, a company I've been following for a number of years. I have it in my newsletter. It's been a disappointment price-wise, but they are, I mean, high-grade orogenic gold system that's very promising. It's huge, a very huge system. Maybe you just talk to us. What are your thoughts about Newfound Gold now? What the management's planning to do with it? Just let us know what you're thinking about Newfound Gold.
Newfound had the discovery back in 2019, went public in 2020, then had that meteoric rise to $13 a share off the excitement of the discovery. We were all very caught up in the euphoria of what was just an incredible discovery unfolding. And I maintain to this day it is an incredible discovery. But there was a lot of price discovery going on at that time as people were trying to figure out just what this thing was. And that went all the way up to management. So today, Palisades owns 18.9% of the company. Eric has just recently eclipsed us as the largest shareholder. He's going to be going over 20% with the concurrent private placement that was announced next to the bought deal a few weeks ago. And at this point, I am no longer a management member or director of Newfound Gold, which is very exciting. For me, it's a full circle, if you will, in terms of starting a company at the grassroots level, seed financing it, financing it along the way, running it for a few years, both as a private and public company, and then waking up one day with the full recognition that this company needed to be in the hands of a mine builder, and then going out and identifying that team. And I couldn't be happier with the group that I've identified. And the way I gauge my happiness is I have no interest in selling the shares of Newfound Gold. Palisades has never sold a share. We've held them for 9 years. We've actually only bought shares, and I think that that's likely going to continue to be the path that we take. The duo of Paul Hewitt as chairman, who's a serially successful mining entrepreneur, and then Keith Boyle, who's built several mines in the position most recently of chief operating officer at a company down in Guyana that just got bought by the guys over at G Mining, excuse me, G-Min. The duo of them have been doing an incredible job, and you can see that from the market buy-in that's been happening. So circling back to Palisades, I think it's a great example of what we've set out to do, which is we're looking for opportunities that at their early stage are not worth much, and then we're looking to build companies out of them and add value and ultimately turn them into mature companies that are run by people outside of the Palisades umbrella. I believe Newfound Gold is one of the most obvious takeover targets as the gold price is moving up. And with us maintaining at this point an 18.9% ownership that's worth far more than the entire market cap of Palisades, that is certainly one of the significant legs, if you will, of the Palisades stool at this point in time.
Right, of the four legs. Yeah, so they've got a new management team, as you say, and the skill sets, I guess, are such that they can take it up to production, even beyond that, or do you think they'll really probably be, because they do have nearly 2 million ounces, I think they have identified so far, very close to surface, high grade, right on surface, essentially, right? And so do you see them, as you, well, you did, you said you see them as a likely takeover candidate. So you think that's what the management is keeping? I mean, that's their focus, is to build this thing to the point where a major would say, yeah, this is where I want to get involved.
Yeah, I believe so. The best strategy for advancing a company towards a takeover is taking the direction of the company towards building a mine, and that is what management is not just capable of, but passionate about doing.
Yeah.
I think that the Newfound deposit, now that we have a resource at which to look at, has a lot of flexibility. It offers several different paths forward to production, and we can see from the news releases that have been coming out that management is seriously looking at that. I believe a PEA is due here in the next couple of weeks. I don't know what's going to be in the PEA in terms of, are they going to look at early term cash flow scenarios, or are they just going to lay out what a traditional mine would look like in terms of building their own mill? But
Mhm.
when you've got high grade free gold exposed at surface, opportunities like a gravity recovery circuit right on site, if
Mhm.
they can get through the permitting requirements of where to store the residuals, could lead to a much earlier cash flow situation than a traditional set of circumstances. So I think a lot of the market got focused on just looking at the number and forgetting the fact that all ounces are far from created equal.
Mhm.
You can have a multi-million ounce deposit buried deep with lower grade, and you can have, at least for now, a more modest size deposit, but with all the attributes we just laid out. And for that reason, I think you can see why Newfound Gold still maintains a strong market cap, and I think that this is incredibly inexpensive against where it's ultimately going.
Yeah. Well, it certainly has a lot of exploration potential from what I understand, well beyond what they've done, what they've explored so far. So, all right. Well, that's one of the four legs of the stools. Another one that I think is one that I'd like to know a lot more about, and I know I went to your website and you were promising you're going to give us more information there pretty soon, and that is radio fuels. 39.9 million pounds of uranium in the indicated category, another 67.2 million pounds in the inferred category. Tell us a little bit about this project. It's in, I guess it's in Manitoba, right?
No, it's actually in Ontario in Elliott Lake.
Oh, Elliott Lake is okay, fine, yeah. Okay, well, tell us about it. How advanced is it? What are your thoughts about, what are your plans with this asset?
Yeah, so we picked up this asset back in 2015 when uranium was bottoming at about $17 a pound. And this is a playbook that I witnessed firsthand when I was in my younger years when my father purchased an asset back in 2001 when uranium was at $7 a pound, called the Anderson uranium mine in Phoenix, outside of Phoenix, I should say. And the number one backing to the strategy, if you will, is when a commodity is as cheap as uranium got, and you're offered the opportunity to buy something nearly out of bankruptcy, and there's pounds in the ground. It was something we wanted to take advantage of.
Mhm.
What was also very appealing about the asset is so much money had been spent on it from about 2008 until 2015 that there was something like 20 years of assessment credits built up in the project. So we almost looked at it as a free call option on the price of uranium.
Mhm.
Now, if you look specifically at what the project actually is, so it's located in Elliott Lake, Ontario. Elliott Lake was the first uranium producer in North America. And there were several mines there, but over time, higher grade mines started to be discovered in other places in North America, and that phased out the viability of production of Elliott Lake. And so these 15 or so mines that were in production
Mhm.
slowly started to shut down. And by the 1980s, Elliott Lake, in terms of its mining, was no longer a mining town. As we go into Elliott Lake, and we did a work program back in 2024, there is an incredible appetite by the locals to see some kind of a renewal of money being spent. And we understand that that same uh, appetite was shown strongly when the last company who held this project was advancing it. It was a company called Pele Mountain Resources.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they picked
I
this
remember
asset
it. Mhm.
back in I believe 2007, and they spent about 15 to 20 million dollars on it, essentially defining this 100 million pound uranium equivalent resource. It starts at surface, and then it's essentially a conglomerate bed that slopes off to the north into the basin. So it's like an old dried up lake that has then been filled in, the same as the Athabasca Basin. And so the deposit hugs the conglomerate bed, or the unconformity between those two rock types. And
Mhm.
so it dips off and it continues getting deeper. And this thing's wide open as you continue on our claim package to depth. In fact, there's three holes that are a few hundred meters further north and deeper that could potentially, if you drilled in between it, significantly enhance the resource size more.
Mhm.
So what is the potential here for Palisades? Well, we're entering, or we've already been in, a uranium bull market. Uranium, for whatever reason, is like silver or gold in terms of the commodities, in that retail really clamors to uranium, and institutions. It's a very uh, glamorous story. And as that happens in the past, we've seen incredible bull markets. The bull market from 2004 to 2007 in uranium blew away any of the other commodity bull
Yeah,
markets.
I remember.
Yeah, I mean, just the amount of money that was made in that sector. I remember from my father and various people associated to him, and even people I work with today that have nostalgia thinking back to that, that uranium, when it takes off, really can have significant legs. This asset is 100% owned by us. What do we see as the future potential there? Well, there's a lot more work to be done on the asset. There's the potential for high grade uranium to be found at Elliott Lake. It was never looked for.
Hmm.
Just like the Athabasca Basin, there's the potential for traps of high grade to be found, and we think that somebody should go after that. So at some point, we might form a company, or we might find a company, an existing uranium group that wants to take this on and give us a significant equity ownership that we can then benefit from as we help that company to build the Elliott Lake story. And of course, having 100 million pounds of uranium in the ground is not a bad start.
Well, well, for sure, and there is more of an emphasis and an acceptance on nuclear power plants now. I think even places like Germany, which was shutting it all down, around the world, in the U.S., most certainly is starting to build and looking at smaller nuclear power plants as well, and a lot of new technologies that are coming online as well. So it seems to me that this could be maybe more than just a quick rise up in the price, but maybe something more longer term could be in the making here. A need for supplies of uranium to, and the price of uranium can go up a lot. It doesn't affect the economics of these power plants that much, right?
Yeah, no, it's core to the narrative there and why uranium can move so much and have such large implications for the equities, but not suppress the use for uranium. And I think it's worth interjecting one point that can wreak emotional havoc on us as junior resource investors. We're seeing it with gold right now, where you've had gold go from, call it $2,000 to 3,400, and of course before that from closer to $1,000. And if you went back to when we were at $1,500 and you listened to the smartest minds in the space, the Frank Justras, they all were saying, once gold breaks $2,000, the junior resource equities are going to move. And now looking back, all of those people, myself included, will say we could not believe a scenario where gold is this high and the junior resource equities have not moved. And that, of course, has people throwing the towel in. I think it's so important to not lose sight of what is going on here. This is a commodity bull market that
Right,
is in its early phases, and junior equities are like the tail end of the tail of the dog.
right.
The guy buying gold at a central bank or acquiring $5 billion of gold for Tether, they don't care. They don't even know that junior resource equities exist. And so there's money and excitement and emotion that needs to flow through the market to reach our segment. But when it does, Jay, I don't need to tell you, you've seen what happens. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just want to encourage those, including myself, that can get discouraged at times. Why have we not made gobs of money yet? It
Hmm.
hasn't happened. It hasn't hit yet.
Yeah, the juniors are the last ones, and they can be the most rewarding ones towards the end of a market when the speculative phase comes in. But it's also the companies that are building that have assets in the ground already, as you have with the radio fuels, as Newfound has. But moving on then to the third leg of the stool, you have Made in America Gold. Made in America is a private corporation you own 100% of, and it has a huge number of properties, gold, silver targets, I guess, in Nevada, right? Talk to us about Made in America and what your plans are for that.
That's right. Made in America is a portfolio that I started assembling at the same time as we picked up the Queensway project in Newfoundland. Today, we're the third largest mineral claim holder in the state of Nevada. The only companies that own more claims than us would be Barrick
Mm-hmm.
and Kinross. In terms of the Battle Mountain Trend itself, we're the largest landholder, so we have more land than even any of the majors. And what we did is, at a time when the market was incredibly depressed. So gold had gotten as high as $2,000 in 2011, pulled back to 1,000 in 2015, and the majors really had expanded too quickly, and so they were shrinking in order to protect their operating gold mines. They started cutting their exploration teams and their most advanced, exploration assets. And we went in and we staked them and we picked them up. And so at this point, we have essentially 11 district scale projects that
Wow.
are mostly within the Battle Mountain Trend. Actually, I should say they are all within the Battle Mountain Trend.
Uh-huh.
There's gold to be found all over Nevada, but we really wanted to focus on the Battle Mountain Cortez Trend, which is the most endowed gold trend in North America. And now that we're starting to see exploration come back, and it's at the very early phases,
Hmm.
we have large major gold mining companies drilling literally right at our border
Oh,
on multiple projects. And so my expectation is going to be that over the next 12 to 24 months, we will start signing options and joint venture agreements with these large companies for significant earnings. Our mantra is any deal that we do on any of those 11 individual projects needs to have the potential to move the needle on the entire company being Palisades. So we're in elephant country. We're looking to find a 5 or 10 million ounce deposit. And in order to do that, we think the most logical partners are very large companies that are serious and willing to spend a significant amount of money. And fortunately, the ground that we have is very suitable for that. We're in the process of launching a dedicated website for Made in America Gold, a name I'm very enthusiastic about. There's a resurgence of interest, of course, in gold happening all over the world. And there's also a resurgence of interest by the United States and other countries to fuel domestic production. Gold and uranium, both just named essentially as critical minerals in the United States. And
hmm.
we think that a logical group that's going to support this company is going to be, people in the U.S. and Canada. But we really wanted to go ahead and highlight where these assets are. They're in the number one mining jurisdiction in the world, and they're in a country that is starting to turn its focus back to gold. So yeah, we think this portfolio has the potential to far outclips the entire value of Palisades
Yeah.
just on its own.
Yeah. And so are you getting some attention already from majors, possibly?
We're in discussions with quite
Yeah.
a few of them,
Right.
and we
So,
have been to be just to give a proper overview of what we've seen in this segment of the market. There's been projects that have been of interest to certain majors for a couple of years. The change we're seeing now is it appears to us that there's some level of attention coming from the board down to the head of exploration of these various
mhm.
outfits that are saying, hey, we need to go out and think about uh, doing something in terms of resource replacement and focusing on these exploration assets, the low-hanging fruit. So I would suspect that in the next 12 to 24 months, we're going to start actually having deals that are consummated with these larger companies.
So so you're really looking for larger companies that are well funded, and the majors are making money hand over fist right now, and they've got to find the ounces that they're producing. The big guys are producing lots of gold every year, and it's hard to replace those. So I would think that somewhere along the line, they're going to need to probably beef up their own exploration, people, to go look for some of these deposits as well. But you're looking for well-funded majors or larger companies, producers that will come in rather than another junior, perhaps. That would be your preference.
Precisely. We've had dialogue with juniors for the last 7, 8 years, and if the right group came along that really had the financing, I don't want to say that we wouldn't entertain doing a deal, but this portfolio has been built with the express purpose of going out and forming large joint ventures with large companies. And I think one example that I could point to that just covers one of the projects. There's a really smart group out there called Ridgeline Resources. It's run by a gentleman named Chad Peters. He's a young geologist, and he's managed to sign 3 joint ventures with 3 different large companies, Barrick, so it's 2 of them are with Barrick, and then Freeport. And one of the projects that they've signed a joint venture with is called Horse Mountain. Horse Mountain is dead smack in the middle of the Battle Mountain trend. It's
Uh-huh.
right along trend from some of the largest gold mines. And he managed to sign a deal with Barrick going back 3 years, so really into the bear market, where Barrick is going to spend 30 million US dollars to earn something like 65 or 70% of this
Wow,
project.
nice.
They've actually elected that they're going to spend the first 20 million, and they've already spent 10. They have about 14 months to spend the next 10. Well, Barrick's ground that they've joint ventured with Ridgeline is sandwiched in between our Horse Mountain project. And all of the exciting holes that they're focused on are located approximately 500 meters from our border. On our side, the ground used to be held by Barrick, and they had put some holes back in 2003 to 2005
Hmm.
that far exceed the grade that are being hit at the Swift joint venture. So while I'm not going to go ahead and void or create any issue with any discussions or CAs we might be under, you can bet that there's a focus that as they're spending 11 or 12 million dollars so close to our border, knowing there's gold on the other side, that could be a project of interest. And I use that as an example just to point out how important it is to have large projects where it matters,
Hmm.
because you can have a whole hit that's not even on your project, and your company can benefit significantly from a discovery right next door. So we've got that circumstance playing out not just at one project, and those are the kind of projects that we think are logical that we could sign something here in the not too distant future.
Yeah, well, that's exciting. Definitely exciting. Now, that's the third leg, is your Made in America gold projects. You alluded to another one, a fourth leg, which maybe you could explain. There's more than those three. Tell us about that. What else might we look for you to get involved in?
Yeah, so the fourth leg is called our ongoing incubation and investment side. It's approximately $40 million that we
Hmm.
have at play. So again, doing the math of adding the parts up and what is the whole worth right now, we're significantly undervalued. If you strip out Made in America gold and radio fuels. So if you say those two have no worth and the market will never value them, and you just take our assets that we could in theory sell because they're public securities, our net asset value right now is around $1.80 Canadian. We're trading at about $1. So it's
Yeah.
a significant discount at the moment. So what are those $40 million doing? Well, it's working on putting together the next umbrella company, as well as taking advantage of these incredibly discounted markets that we find ourselves in. We think that the opportunity right now is potentially the most obvious that we're ever going to see. Uh, Going back to that interlude from earlier in the interview about nobody envisioning a situation where you have $3,400 gold and the TSX venture not having moved more, the writing is on the wall. It's as obvious as it's ever going to get. The idea to look at the current situation and say it's going to be different this time is utterly and completely ridiculous. It's not going to be any different. Sure, it might not be exactly the same, but the junior market is going to light up, and it's going to be on fire, and there's going to be money seeking returns.
Mhm.
And we're finding incredible assets, incredible management teams, and incredible prices that we're going ahead and looking for. Hey, what do we want to add to the Palisades portfolio? And there's about, like I said, 40 million Canadian that's currently at work. As part of that, there was a strategic investment done in the form of a loan
Uh-huh.
about a month and a half ago by our largest shareholder, a gentleman out of Arizona. And essentially, what we decided is, look, we have a significant position in newfound gold that we have no interest in selling. But we would hate to not take more advantage of these deeply discounted
Mhm.
situations that we're seeing outside of newfound gold. How do we leverage that? And so, because this was a very friendly situation, the amount of equity he's invested in the company far outweighs the debt.
Uh-huh.
We decided, why don't we set some newfound shares aside, provide this gentleman some security, and ask him for a loan at a reasonable rate of 10% interest, and hence have another $8.3 million at which we can go
Mhm.
ahead and put to play
Put to
right now
work.
at a time when we think it really could make a meaningful difference. And that's exactly what we've done. And so, a little bit of a different flavor now, having a small amount of debt on the books, but hopefully with that explanation, people can understand the rationale.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, that you've pledged your shares, or at least some of them, in Newfound against that. But it's a friendly situation, as you say, your largest shareholder outside of yourself, perhaps. And yeah, well, that's really exciting, Colin. Thank you so much. This is really, I think, a very undervalued play. People really need to know about it. That's why I wanted to have you come on and talk about it. I guess going forward, then we might look for announcements with regard to joint ventures. What sort of catalysts might people be on the watch for going forward in the next several months?
On the Newfound front, I'm not directly involved as management director, but I wouldn't count out that equity is particularly depressed against many of its peers right now,
Yep.
probably as a consequence of its resource just having come out recently ago. But with $70 million now in the bank and a PEA right in front of it, I think an obvious catalyst with us owning 43 million shares could come from outside, being
Hmm.
Newfound Gold performing. The uranium project, we're always looking for proper suitors for that, and there's been no shortage of interest from companies. We're just looking for the right fit, and so at some point, again, maybe in the next 12 to 24 months, if not sooner, we could look to announce something where we would be able to attribute some value to the asset in terms of getting something for it. But we'd also envision that being done in a way where we then continue to grow further
Hmm.
with that asset. Made in America Gold, we've got an amazing CEO that is going to be announced in the next few months.
Oh, okay.
And so the company, even though it's a 100% owned subsidiary of Palisades, is operating with a full team, and the leadership and the angle that that's going to bring, I think, is going to be very exciting, and let the market know we're not just sitting on projects, we're actively doing things. And then finally, with that fourth leg being the active investment, you never know what rock we might turn over and find something.
Mhm.
We have a couple hundred million warrants in the portfolio.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so, there's a lot of potential leverage built in from just a move in the sector. And
Hmm.
the TSX Venture Exchange is clearly broken out. It's in its
Yeah,
very early stages of a move, but that can lead to hockey sticks in terms of portfolios once this thing really starts to get going.
no doubt about it. And with respect to, people that aren't used to the gold markets, the commodity markets, they should keep in mind that what's in play is not necessarily that gold is going up in value, but that the currency is debasing as well. So, part of it, the numbers are going up because the currency, to a great extent, is being debased because the politicians have to print money to pay for their vote buying projects. We may put it that way, I suppose. So, yeah, but we are in a bull market now, and also we have an administration now in Washington that really wants to see real wealth creating industries do well. So I think wealth creation starts with mining to a great extent, mining and manufacturing, things that actually create wealth. So, Colin, I want to thank you. I think this is a very exciting story. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. And I want to keep up with your story going forward. So maybe we can do it again sometime if you're available.
Yeah, great. Anytime, Jay. I really enjoyed doing this with you.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that is it for this week. Next week, Colin, what am I talking about? I've got Colin on the mind here, I guess. I'm looking right at him here. And Kirsten Brower, the CEO, actually, she is the chairperson now with Hydrograph Clean Power, is going to be with me, as well as Bob Moriarty is going to join us too in a discussion. This is one of the most exciting technology stories that I'm following, with graphene, the graphene producer, the only company in the world that can produce pure graphene. An extremely exciting story. So I hope you'll join me next week. Until then, goodbye and God's blessings to you.